Okay, so here's one I actually really liked. This is one I kind of looked pretty heavily into, maybe as of recently. And I won't get into like the total example of it, but this is something that I have found I think works for me. So maybe it might work for somebody else. So here we go. This is another string. There are many spells that can be confusing and productive all at once. The heaviest of bearing can be the spell of obsession. The positive that occurs in the search for creative heights shadows the kiss of addiction. The mind and the life it supports must be stimulated through opposite avenues of experience and interactions. The musician should never be a slave to music, but a satellite to its message. If, for example, one puts down the guitar and picks up a martial art, the focus and discipline will expand to the new realm of productivity. The energy given to music will transcend to the martial arts and return again to the music. Without stretching the mind, you will never know the potential of one discipline from another, which in turn enhance each other. You know, anything like that. You spend hours in a chair in front of a computer and you just try to hone your craft. You know, you try to define it and mold it and figure it out and go in it and look outside of it. And in my perspective, I believe that can actually, at some point, be a little destructive. There's a fine line between having a lot of discipline and a lot of focus and being a productive person. The fine line between that and just truly being obsessed is very gray. It's very, very gray. And that can suck almost every creative juice that you actually have, because creative juices, I believe, have to actually be renewed and renewed and renewed. And you don't just really make them on your own sitting there trying to get them out. If you're always trying to get them out, how does anything come back in? So I use the example of maybe of a martial art, you know, something like, you know, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, anything like that. You should always go for that. You should never limit yourself to thinking that you're only this one thing. You only have one identity, and that is a musician. You may be very good at it and very skilled at it, but the same mentality that you've brought yourself to getting those skills, you may actually be able to reach farther into something else with that same mentality. You know, if you use that discipline and that focus and that you know, that straightforward thinking that you have towards the music and with the instrument and things like that, you use that towards jiu-jitsu, use that towards boxing. You know, these are all, and I'm only using martial arts as an example, but you know, these are all things that have a science to them, you know, have a lot of different angles to them, have a lot of different tiers. There's very heavy, deep depth to these things, just like music. And if you have the mind that's able to go into those different levels of music, I believe you have the mind to actually discipline yourself into other things. And when your creative juices have a new medium to be let out through, I believe in turn it brings back more energy, which you're able to dispense into the other avenues of your creativity. Those things can condition your mind in different ways that being a musician doesn't. So in turn, the different way of being creative, the different way of being disciplined, the different ways of having to endure winning and losing, you know, that also, that itself conditions the way in which you will go back to your music, the way in which you look at your music, the way in which you're disciplined with your music. It may elevate you as an artist. So the more you expand the mind, the more ground it covers, you know, and the more ground it covers, the more perspective you have. And the more perspective I believe you have, the more you're able to pull on ideas that you wouldn't so be able to before, because you did not have that panorama view of who you are and what your skills are and what it takes to maybe get to a certain point creatively, you know, because you're stretching out to so many different things that take a lot of determination, or take a lot of time, and take a lot of focus, you know. So, you know, everything in your life is supposed to help everything else, you know. If you let the positive in, all it does is reinforce more positive, you know. So try that, you know, and don't get obsessed.